What's up, cool people? My name's Matt. Welcome back to our Bible study. Alright. I'm a little sick. But we're looking at 2 Kings chapter 14 here. And, let's see here. Elijah just died, I guess. Okay. This looks like it's going back to Judah, so the recent events in Israel, it does get into Israel a little bit, so basically Israel cycled through another couple of kings, neither of whom really followed God, and they did manage to, sort of push back the Arameans. At least I'm pretty sure it was the Arameans. And then, regain some territory that was lost to them. Yeah, Arameans. Okay. But, because of how, what was his name? Jehoash? Yeah. I think that, yeah, because of how Jehoash acted and responded to a particular bit of Elisha's last prophecy, they didn't completely, wipe out the Arameans. It was just a few victories that allowed them to regain lost territory, essentially. But, yeah, that's what's been happening recently in 2 Kings. So, oh yeah. Also, since we're going to be talking about Judah, Joash was a pretty good king. He was named king at all of 7 years old, but he still ruled for 40 years then. He followed God, didn't necessarily get rid of the other idols and things like that people were worshiping, but he himself followed God pretty decently. Got the temple rebuilt, or at least repaired, I should say. So yeah. Then he got, betrayed, executed, whatever you want to call it. And that leads us to the events of this chapter, 2 Kings 14. So here we go. Amaziah, son of Joash, began to rule over Judah in the second year of the reign of King Jehoash of Israel. Amaziah was 25 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 29 years. His mother was Jehoiadin from Jerusalem. Amaziah did what was pleasing in the Lord's sight, but not like his ancestor David. Instead, he followed the example of his father Joash. Amaziah did not destroy the pagan shrines, and the people still offered sacrifices and burned incense there. Unsurprising that this guy would rule more like his father than, the greater kings that came before the split. Yeah, I don't really have too much else to say there. The note here says Joash rather than Jehoash, but they're pretty much, as far as Hebrew is concerned, variant spellings of the same name. So, to distinguish, perhaps, between Jehoash, who ruled in Israel, and Joash, who ruled in Judah, they're using the different spellings. So anyway, Joash's son Amaziah is king. Let's see what he does, starting in verse 5. When Amaziah was well established as king, he executed the officials who had assassinated his father. However, he did not kill the children of the assassins, for he obeyed the command of the Lord as written by Moses in the book of the law. Parents must not be put to death for the sins of their children, nor children for the sins of their parents. Those deserving to die must be put to death for their own crimes. Amaziah also killed 10,000 Edomites in the Valley of Salt. He also conquered Selah and changed its name to Joktheel, as it is called to this day. Okay, so good on Amaziah for, following the law properly regarding, not punishing family members for the sins of their fellow family. And apparently that quote from the law can be found in Deuteronomy 24:16. So if you're wanting to double check that, I pretty well trust these cross references, but if you don't, feel free to go back and check that reference there. And you see here, okay, I got into a little bit of a conversation with a viewer last week regarding something that said, as it is to this day, or whatever. Something to that effect. Now, I can't confirm for totally sure whether or not this particular area or city or whatever is currently called Joktheel, but there are some examples of things like that throughout the Bible where it says, such and such altar or monument is here, or this place is named such and such, or was named such and such at this moment and is still named that to this day. I know for a fact some of those do not apply to our current day, in the year 2025. So, again, we'll just take this moment to say it's not always the best idea to read the phrase as it is to this day to understand that as, today. It was likely the day of when this was written is when that was meant to be applied to. But anyway, okay, moving on. Verse 8. One day Amaziah sent messengers with this challenge to Israel's king Jehoash, the son of Jehoahaz and grandson of Jehu. Come and meet me in battle. But King Jehoash of Israel replied to King Amaziah of Judah with this story. Out in the Lebanon mountains, a thistle sent a message to a mighty cedar tree. Give your daughter in marriage to my son. But just then a wild animal of Lebanon came by and stepped on the thistle, crushing it. You have indeed defeated Edom, and you are proud of it. But be content with your victory and stay at home. Why stir up trouble that will only bring disaster on you and the people of Judah? So, is Jehoash trying to call Israel the cedar in this case? That's kind of what it seems like. But in any case, yeah. Little odd that Amaziah would want to instigate a war with the kingdom of Israel. But, maybe he's feeling overconfident after defeating the Edomites. Also, note there says, let us look one another in the face, is how the Hebrew could be read, which is probably meant similarly. But still, it leaves it open to potentially be interpreted or understood as maybe not wanting to fight so much as hey, let's strike up a deal or something like that instead. I don't know. Anyway, so Jehoash basically says he wants nothing to do with it. And then we get to verse 11. But Amaziah refused to listen. So King Jehoash of Israel mobilized his army against King Amaziah of Judah. The two armies drew up their battle lines at Beth Shemesh in Judah. Judah was routed by the army of Israel, and its army scattered and fled for home. King Jehoash of Israel captured Judah's king Amaziah, son of Joash, and grandson of Ahaziah, at Beth Shemesh. Then he marched to Jerusalem, where he demolished 600 feet of Jerusalem's wall, from the Ephraim gate to the corner gate. He carried off all the gold and silver and all the articles from the temple of the Lord. He also seized the treasures from the royal palace, along with hostages, and then returned to Samaria. Okay. So yeah, that didn't go well for Amaziah, and apparently a bunch of Jerusalem's wall got destroyed, and a bunch of the stuff was taken from the temple, again. Although previously, I guess it was given to the Aramean king to maybe keep them from attacking. Yeah. So, that's that. My explanations are probably going to be a bit on the shorter side, given how I'm feeling today, but still, sick or not, Bible study is an important thing. So, let's continue. Verse 15. The rest of the events in Jehoash's reign and everything he did, including the extent of his power and his war with King Amaziah of Judah, are recorded in the book of the history of the kings of Israel. When Jehoash died, he was buried in Samaria with the kings of Israel, and his son Jeroboam II became the next king. King Amaziah of Judah lived for 15 years after the death of King Jehoash of Israel. The rest of the events in Amaziah's reign are recorded in the book of the history of the kings of Judah. Pretty cut and dry stuff, just historical notes there, really. But, so, clearly, Amaziah was only taken hostage by Jehoash, not killed by him. Considering Amaziah was able to outlive Jehoash then. And then, verse 19. There was a conspiracy against Amaziah's life in Jerusalem, and he fled to Lachish. But his enemies sent assassins after him, and they killed him there. They brought his body back to Jerusalem on a horse, and he was buried with his ancestors in the city of David. All the people of Judah had crowned Amaziah's 16-year-old son Uzziah as king in place of his father Amaziah. After his father's death, Uzziah rebuilt the town of Elath and restored it to Judah. Okay. Maybe we'll get more about Uzziah later. Hebrew could be read as Azariah, which seems significantly different to us, but again, with ancient Hebrew not really even having vowels and being that different of a language, one being a variant spelling of the other isn't completely out of the question. So basically, Amaziah was assassinated, not too unlike his father, and then his son becomes king in Judah. But we also heard about Jehoash dying, so I guess we're gonna get more on his son next. Starting in verse 23. Jeroboam II, the son of Jehoash, began to rule over Israel in the 15th year of King Amaziah's reign in Judah. He reigned in Samaria 41 years. He did what was evil in the Lord's sight. He refused to turn from the sins that Jeroboam, son of Nebat, had led Israel to commit. Jeroboam II recovered the territories of Israel between Lebo-Hamath and the Dead Sea, just as the Lord, the God of Israel, had promised through Jonah, son of Amittai, the prophet from Gath-Hepher. Okay. I don't necessarily remember that. I don't remember hearing about that prophecy. But that might come a bit later. Not everything that we read is sequential. Also, I don't think the Jonah mentioned here is necessarily the same Jonah that we tend to think of when we hear the name. You know, not the one that was swallowed by the big fish. Not saying for sure that he wasn't, but I'm not recalling that Jonah stating a prophecy similar to what it mentions here. Note there at the Dead Sea, Hebrew says the Sea of the Arabah. It was probably just the way that they referred to it. It might not have been called the Dead Sea then, but it's referring to the same place, I assume. So, another king in Israel that doesn't follow the Lord. Not surprising. Not a single one has yet. But he did end up recovering various territories, so at least militarily, Israel is doing pretty good for itself. Okay. Then we get to verse 26, which seems to be a bit of a continuation of the previous idea flow. So, since they retook this territory as it was told by this prophet Jonah, then we get to verse 26, which says, "For the Lord saw the bitter suffering of everyone in Israel, and that there was no one in Israel, slave or free, to help them. And because the Lord had not said he would blot out the name of Israel completely, he used Jeroboam II, the son of Jehoash, to save them." The rest of the events in the reign of Jeroboam II and everything he did, including the extent of his power, his wars, and how he recovered for Israel both Damascus and Hamath, which had belonged to Judah, are recorded in the book of the history of the kings of Israel. When Jeroboam II died, he was buried in Samaria with the kings of Israel. Then his son Zechariah became the next king. Okay, so it says he recovered this territory, but it was from Judah. So it was still kind of territory that was amongst God's people the entire time. But it's just like kind of swapping hands now between them. Okay. Notes here. She just says, or to Yaudai? That's interesting. Meaning of the Hebrew is uncertain. So it's possible that it had actually, that these cities had actually gone to other people, maybe. Not sure about all that. In any case, Jeroboam II regained control of it for Israel. And when he died, he was buried in Samaria. That says in some Greek manuscripts. Hebrew lacks saying he was buried in Samaria. In any case, so then his son becomes the next king in Israel. So I imagine next chapter or two we'll end up reading about, well, probably first Uzziah in Judah and then Zechariah in Israel. But yeah, that's it for 2 Kings 14. Okay, so for a little bit there, I thought Amaziah was going to be a pretty good king. I mean, I guess, morally, he was all right. Maybe not the smartest idea to go attack the larger, probably. I'm pretty sure Israel was a geographically larger kingdom. In any case, it encompassed all but one of the, tribes, the ancestral tribes of Israel. So, you'd think it probably has a larger army. In any case, yeah. Not a smart move. But, anyway, we're just progressing through some more kings, as the book sort of implies. So, yeah. I don't really have too many other thoughts on that. As always, like and share if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe to the channel to get updates when I post new videos. Look down in the description for links to social media pages and all sorts of good stuff like that. And leave your thoughts and questions down in the comments section. So that's going to do it for now. Hope you're all doing well. Hopefully I'll see you soon for another video. But whatever the case is, till next time, stay cool, people.